Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's another Powerlifter pain vlog, and I appreciate all your comments that commented on my previous vlog. And I wanted to actually talk about sort of what goes through my head when I'm having these problems. When I'm having an issue, it sort of consumes me, and I have to sort of control myself because I'll obsess over it, trying to fix it. Sometimes doing more than I should, taking away from other things I need to do all day. Because I train people for a living, I stand and I teach people things about fitness and strength training, going over people's form. But when someone's doing cardio or warming up or maybe pushing a sled, I'll get a lacrosse ball and I'll roll against the wall with my piriformis or something, or maybe I'll stretch my hip flexor, or I'll do something to sort of make better use of the time versus just standing there. Maybe I'll activate my glutes. And some things I've kind of noticed over the past few days, or at least today, I'll mention is that in a previous video I talked about I will make a video about muscle energy and some things I was doing with my hips that I think is kind of working, but I'm not sure. So prepare for that video coming up. But I feel like my pelvis gets out of whack, and after I do muscle energy back and forth, if I press my knees together against a stability ball or a ball like a medicine ball or a block, I'll get a click because the pubic symphysis will kind of like align. I was thinking about some other things that I could do today or train, and it was, if you saw my sumo deadlift video, and it turns out sumo deadlift seems to actually be kind of working in a good way. It seems to be the biggest problem I'm having when it comes to deadlifts and why it aggravates my back is deep flexion. So when I start to pass 90 degrees at the hip, it seems as though as my hamstrings and glute inflexibility is interfering with my psoas movements. And I don't know how else to explain this, but I was doing some high block pulls also, which is another video I'm going to make, about 6 or 7 inches, and I was doing conventional block pulls with anywhere from 350 to almost, I think 380, I think I went up to. And I noticed that I can feel my hip a little bit, but it's sort of a good pain. I felt like I was activating my glutes at a higher position. One thing I'm kind of thinking about right now is the glutes are, I think, antagonists or agonists to the psoas, right? And the psoas are antagonists or agonists to the glute max, and they work together, right? So when the glutes fire, the psoas has to release, and then when the psoas fires, the glutes have to release. And sometimes when they're acting, or when they're being stubborn, or when your psoas is being stubborn, or the whole system is all jacked up, give you some issues. And you have to think about that for a second, since sort of like the bicep and then the tricep. When the tricep contracts, the bicep stretches. The bicep contracts, the tricep stretches, right? Well, the glute complex, or the glutes along with the psoas, have a similar relationship. Now, if you kind of think of this for a second, it's sort of like this is a deep flexion of the glutes or the hip, maybe, right? This is the bicep. This is the tricep. So let's just say, for simplicity's sake, this is the glutes, and then this is the hip flexor, the psoas, or hip flexors, I guess. So sort of like tricep activation here will be different than a tricep activation here. So maybe what I'm sort of thinking in my head is that my glute activation, remember triceps, I'm using my triceps as an analogy for my explanation, is that maybe right here, I'm having trouble using my tricep, or in this case, my glute. And since I'm not having trouble using my glute here, I'm having to use like the shoulder or the lat, or in this case, my lower back or my spine to sort of compensate. And then when I'm out to here, so this is sort of like a block pull, like I'm all the way extended, the psoas is starting to stretch out, the glutes is activating the pull, meaning the hip extension, right? So what's happening is I'm okay here because for whatever reason I have really good glute activation here, and then hip extension ability because that's the psoas and the hip flexor. So sort of the other issue is, hold on, I'll be there soon. Okay, close the door. Close. I'll go. All right, good job. All right. So glute activates, bicep or psoas releases. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that I need to be able to activate my glute better here. It seems as though I don't have any psoas or hip pain or repercussions after training if I work on activating my glutes from a block pull position or a sumo pull, because I'm not in deep flexion, or I'm not as my hip isn't as flexed. So I can train from here, from basically sumo position, because the glute can fire, my hip can be in a better position, my spine can be in a better position. Some other things that come to mind as I kind of talk this video out also is that in this position here, sort of like deep flexion or just in a lower position deadlift, I think what's happening is I'm having trouble firing glutes, or I'm not using my glutes strong enough for the loads that I'm using, because I can easily deadlift 300 pounds, 400. like 350 or lower for conventional deadlifts and not have a whole lot of issues. But when I go up 4 or 5, I start to have issues, or if I do a lot of reps with 400 pounds like I did on Thursday. So what I'm thinking here now, when I'm in this position, or I'm a more flex position of the hip. So this is the hip flexor. This is the glute. So what I need to do is from this deeper flex position, I need to work on being able to activate my glutes from this deeper flex position. So this is basically my own self therapy, self physical therapy, or just glute activation drill. So what that comes to mind is, from a seated position, from a deep flex position when the hip is at 90 degrees, I need to be able to activate my glutes. What can I do to do that? Well, something that comes to mind is I can sit on a chair and then I can wear the hip circle around my knees and make sure my hip is below, or my butt's below, my knees are above my hip line, and do some abduction work. That's what kind of I think about. Some other things I could probably do too is maybe probably some lunges. That's some other things I can probably do, maybe from or step-ups actually. God, step-ups were just so boring and annoying to do, but I have a feeling that step-ups will be something that will help me. So step-ups and probably some hip abduction, seated, making sure my hips are below parallel to get better glute activation when the hip is flexed more. The other thing too that I kind of wanted to mention as well is that when I do self-release, when I get my fingers like this, and then I should get my left hand because of my left hip, and I get my right hand to push down on my psoas while I'm lying down and sort of moving my hip or my leg, my femur. It seems to provide a little bit of relief. I'm not sure exactly what it is, if it's actually working, because I'm never sure when it comes to that specific area. God, I just wish I understood how this all works better. And someone commented, why don't you go see a cryo? Why don't you see a physical therapist? I mean, the understanding that I have, sure, they know more than me because they have a lot more experience, but they don't know me better than me. So it's kind of like I have to spend pretty much thousands of dollars for someone to get to know me, to actually help me. And it's not something that I have the resources for. So kind of going off tangent there. So the thing is working on that, the releasing that psoas is helping. Seems like if I use like a, do I have it here? I have a Theracane back buddy thing that seems to be working pretty good. I tried using like a stick, and I think I bruised my hip. So I don't know if I'm gonna be able to roll this out because I put too much pressure. So I'm working around my problem. Looks like I'm gonna be doing a lot of sumo deadlifts this coming up. You're gonna see a lot of sumo deadlift videos, and I know some of you, I feel, well, if you hate me, you probably wouldn't be watching this far into the video, but I feel like that's probably the biggest issue. Is I think sumo deadlifts is gonna be my bread and butter. I'm thinking, because it doesn't seem to hurt. It seems to feel actually pretty good. I feel like I'm activating some muscle fibers I don't get to activate, like in that sumo position. Get those abductors, especially that adductor magnus. Get that working pretty good. And what else is there? Today pain was okay. I mean, after I did a bunch of different movements. I did Airdyne, which is basically it's Airdyne, I guess. I did rower for like 5 minutes each. I pushed the sled a little bit. I ran for 30 minutes. I did sumo deadlifts with about 300 pounds, and I did some block pulls with 350 and up, and it seems to be doing okay. I did some kettlebell swings. That felt all right. What I didn't do, which I ignored, was abs. I need to do abs. I really hate doing abs. Anyways, that's just an update. Some thoughts. Another last thing is that when I have hip pain, this psoas is bothering me. If I roll out my piriformis and get deep underneath, right next to that femur bone, or near my sits bones, where you sit down, you can feel the bones if you're sitting on a hard chair, I get some relief as well. I don't know if I'm releasing a nerve, or I don't know. It's the release. The relief is very mild. It's not like a huge relief, but I don't know. Those are just some thoughts. From tomorrow, I should have a video coming out, probably on some deadlift or some workout that I did. And maybe that muscle energy if I can get to it. So anyways, thanks for watching. See you guys later.